Yours.
Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon. First of all, I will just briefly introduce you to the Belgium institution because we speak about federal, national. It's just to tell you that, in fact, we have also 3 regions which has their own territorial policies and providing their own geo platforms. And that at the federal level, we are gathering the informations from the different federal public service, which has the responsibility for the whole territory. So that means that towards the European portal, we provide 4 discovery services. So this is, and I will present you one of them, which is the Federal Geo Platform. Yes, I see that I have not my slide. Oh, just, no. Sorry. Yeah. You're very close. Yes. Okay. I'm a little bit lost with these kind of things. Yeah, F5. Yes, let's see if it works. No. Okay, yes, let's start. And just to show you that I will split my presentation in 2 main parts. So setting the scene, what means this federal platform, how we cooperate with the different federal public services, and we will target the work done by the Office of Statistics for Belgium, who has already or busy with the data transformation on the statistics. So, well, I suppose you know all this kind of infrastructure mapping, the INSPIRE infrastructure. And it's just to show you that for creating this federal geo platform, we have started from scratch. And it was a mission from the mapping agency of Belgium to implement such a federal platform on behalf of the federal level. But what is important to know is that we, in fact, give priority to INSPIRE first and give accessibility to the INSPIRE dataset of the Federal Public Service. Of course, we will enlarge this platform to other special dataset and service. But it's clear that the implementation is by focusing. The first step has been to also create a geo catalog, which is INSPIRE compliant, and this geo portal, which is the open data, the open window to this spatial dataset and services. Looking to the different federal partners, we have identify 10 departments which are key actors for providing spatial data at federal level. So beside the usual classical one, mapping and cadastral agency, we have identified the statistical community, we have the meteorology, we have the agronomy, and we have all what is dealing with the resource management of the sea area, so the continental platform. And as the environmental policy is under the responsibility of the region, we have, however, an inter-regional agency on environment dealing with for air quality reporting. And that we have, they provided their metadata and their services on our federal platform. Well, regarding the data set, we have identified 60 data sets for the federal level, but which significantly cover almost all the teams of the INSPIRE. And I think the most significant data set are coming from Annex 1 with topographic data and cadastre, but we have, of course, the statistical information, population distribution, or what is regarding the sea area and biotopes. Well, what does that mean, working together? And as we have the mission to implement the federal geoportal the mapping agency of Belgium is also supporting and offers services to the different federal public service to implement INSPIRE. So we are there to support them in their INSPIRE implementation. What that means? Provide expertise, help desk support, and we have also to take care of the INSPIRE compliancy of the metadata of the data and the service they would provide. Now, let's introduce the public service of economy. So there is around 9 departments. Among them, we have the Statistic Belgium, and we have identified 2 departments who manage INSPIRE data sets. So we have, of course, the Statistic Belgium, but another one, which is the continental platform dealing with the resources on the seabed. So we have identified different data sets. For the statistical units, we have 2 data sets, 1 per statistical unit, but also we provide the data set for the urban audit and for Eurostat. We have also, under the population distribution, 2 data sets. So population distribution are split according to 1 kilometer grid or shared with 2 statistical districts. And we have the mineral resource on the seabed regarding sand and gravel extractions. Just setting the scene about how we share or work with this FPS economy. And we have, of course, to decide on some bilateral agreement, how to altogether implement INSPIRE. And we have decided we have agreed on this kind of task division. So the FPS economy is responsible for delivering metadata in XML and their INSPIRE data in GML. And that means that for the federal level, we require to all our partners to provide metadata in 4 languages, with English by default. That means that when the European portal harvests our data, all metadata are available in English. For remaining for the part of mapping agency, so for NGI, we validate the data, metadata, and service, and we also set up their service on behalf. Just now show you a brief overview of this federal geocatalog. So we in fact just list the metadata for the statistical district. So it's just a brief overview. They are of course INSPIRE compliant, and we are able to make the link between their availability, which service they are accessible with. And we have also drawn a map viewer which lists all the INSPIRE services which are already classified by INSPIRE team and that are automatically related to the metadata of the dataset themselves. And we have also, so you can play with all these services, and we have also implemented geolocator. So now we can move on to the data transformation from statistic itself. So that's classical workflow. They use shapefile data source. They use the HAIL tools to make their own mapping, providing GML, making a quick validation, a very quick overview, using these QGIS to look at the integrity of the data they have transformed, and then they hand over to IGN. And IGN is busy with the validation of their data and to provide these download services using Degree. Though that's classical, nothing to really tell. What is important is the solution they have decided to process the data transformation. So in Belgium, we have around 12,000 statistical sectors. And this was the first try. They have decided to have the super simple solution. So the key solution, so just target the mandatory attribute that the INSPIRE specifications requires. And they have been able, in that perspective, to provide one GML, because, of course, the main concern is how big will be and usable will be the resulting GML when you decide to process on the entire territory of a country. So there it was manageable. We start from 22 megabytes, and it's around 2.5 bigger than, but that's manageable. And it was rather easy and straightforward. So, although at that size, it was usable and readable through QGIS. So, no real problem, and it was a positive experience. About population distributions, you see my face that probably another issue is coming. Well, the problem is coming. I say already it's a problem. It's about the inspired data model. Because, in fact, population distribution, they just are pure semantic value, and there is no real geometry inside this data modeling beside the contour. That means that if you decide to process on the entire territory, you have just one contour, which is a contour of the country, and one big record with all the values of the population distribution. So it leads to, of course, problem of capacity, RAM capacity into the data transformation. So solution has been to work with virtual machines, so 32 gigabytes, and they have been able to, for validation for population distribution statistical sector, to provide one a single file, but for the 30,000 value, then they have to split the territory and to move from data set to data series. And they have decided to do that in equally size of 12 megabytes. The idea was, of course, we could split the area in administrative units, but even for the region, it was still too bigger. Okay, so just to have this conclusion about the data transformation is that for statistical units, we can say that's positive. But about the transformation on the population distribution, well, the data model and specification are not so fit for purpose. And we wonder if it is really readable and usable through usual GIS, as it is nowadays. Statistical community are not really promoting this kind of inspired data set. So, well, we can decide they have proposed some change in the data specification, probably to integrate some geometrical feature from statistical units who consider the population value as tabular data that can be linked to statistical units. Okay, just a few words on the validation. It has been done in 3 steps. The first one is a visual check, just to avoid rubbish file or big mistake and compare with the specification. And then we have jumped to the validation tools of the Joint Research Center for general conformance. And then we have implemented our own schematron based on the ATS, so to fulfill the validation. So the conclusions are the following, is that at a data provider's perspective, the specifications are written for GML, UML experts and not for the data providers, so not easy to understand. They need support for the data transformation. The thematic clusters are very helpful to share issues, and also the health forum is very helpful. Data specification on population, we wonder, as it is nowadays, if it fits really for purpose, and that we should not underestimate the organizational framework to have a good, successful result for the inspired implementation. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Nathalie, for sharing us these rather practical experiences on a rather core topic around Inspire. Questions to Nathalie? Yes, please.
I'm from Statistics Netherlands. My name is Peter Bresters from Statistics Netherlands, and I was wondering if you are aware of the GeoStat 3 project from the EFGS, because they are also dealing with this problem with the data model of population distribution not having any feature types in it and no geometry. So maybe we can discuss it later.
Yes.
But are you aware of that project?
I'm not specifically aware, and in fact it is Pierre Jamin from the Office of Statistics which is well informed about that. But I can, of course, communicate your question if you need.
But as we have now tools and governance that the statistical offices discuss together with the mapping agencies, you are fully aware, I think this is indeed a very good solution. And if I may add something we learned this morning in the work plan session about Inspire, we learned that there are probably, if it's about the GML, which is cumbersome, as you explained, that there are probably other encoding possibilities coming up, and also that through the clusters and so on, you can also bring forward, and you are very much encouraged, concerns around those themes there are.
Because in the GeoStat 3 project, we are looking at the possibility to just stick to SDMX, what we are used to in statistical work. So that's
very interesting metadata topic. That's not here the session, but that's a very interesting discussion. Any other question? No?
I have just a comment, because it's just an idea that when we speak about tiling system, I think it's important, but we should set up a common European one, because even if we adopt that and it is decided at national level, that cannot be really usable at European one. So it's part of sort in the progress of the data specification we have to look at.
Well, that's why these conferences are for. I mean, I think that recommendation was very valid with the GeoStat project, so let's make the connections. Merci beaucoup. Our next presentation is by Dieter Hess, and Dieter is from Baden-Württemberg, and let me get back to where we are, and he is speaking to us about, I need to see the title again, about the way how Baden-Württemberg is organizing itself around geo-government. The floor is yours.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. My name is Dieter Hess. I come from the Ministry of Rural Affairs and Consumer Protection Baden-Württemberg. It's a region in the southwest of Germany, 10 million people, 35,000 square kilometers. And I want to explain how we try to build up our spatial data infrastructure with respect to Inspire. First of all, what's the actual political context in we have to build up our SDI today? It is digitalization. Baden-Württemberg is a really industrial region, and so our government agreed a few weeks ago in a digital strategy. Here on the slide you see some keywords of this strategy, and one keyword is geoinformation. That's the point that the government identified that the SDI is a core component of digital state service for the public, so we have to push SDI in the next month, in the next years. And how we do that? And I want to stress 2 points: coordination, and show you how we try to build up a spatial database with a common coordinate reference system of high quality. First, to the coordination. Here you see Baden-Württemberg in the southwest of Germany, 10 ministries, more than 10 ministries, a lot of authorities, more than 1,000 municipalities, all having geodata of overall interest with high usage potential, and using itself geodata from other players. A lot of players are in the room, so we need a strategy to involve them in the process. We have a common base for the spatial data infrastructure. It's the Law on Spatial Data Infrastructure from 2009 that forces all authorities for providing their Inspire data, with web services. But then there are big differences. There are really big differences between the authorities. They have to do that. They are strong. Some of them are strong authorities. For example, our state authority for geoinformation and land consolidation. But our really small authorities, our municipalities, for example, level 100, which are very poor, which have no people to do that and have no geo experience. So we have to, not everybody having relevant special data have the power to participate. Working together is the key. So we need a strategy for this. And our strategy is to build SDI nodes. Not everyone should provide their data. We try to identify SDI nodes, and this we have done for some authorities who have geo experience, who are interested in having the data from other authorities, and who are strong enough to set up web services using a professional IT center under governmental and municipal direction. Yes, we have done it for some themes. You see it here on the slide. Topography, for example, cadastre, water, waste, nature protection, geology, and so on. But there is a big lack. For example, here are some data themes you see on the right side. We haven't done this, so that's our next job to do that. How we establish an SDI node in Baden-Württemberg. One example I want to give you. It's an example of urban planning, which is a core task for our cities, for our towns, medium-sized towns and small villages. And it's an Inspire theme. It's part of the land use theme. And we thought it's too complex that everyone do this SDI task on its own, so we divided the task in 3 parts, in three steps. Step 1 is 1,100 municipalities have to create their plan. That's what they have to do. And they create their plan in a standard, in a common standard, which is a national standard. It's the standard X planning according to German law. And then they have to upload the data to a common database. The next step is we don't want only spatial data for our spatial data infrastructure. We want qualified, reliable spatial data. So the 44 counties check the data in data content and data structure and say, yes, it's okay. This data seems to be good. And then after this, the node produces the metadata, the view service, the download service, and do the transformation with automatic procedures. And we do this for European users with the Inspire flavor, and we do this for national, regional, local users and the municipality itself with the national standard, with a regional add-on on the standard, so that we have the full representation of this plan, and it is not a full representation for Inspire, but it's the common denominator in Europe. So working together, all players with their main competences is the key to have success. This is our slogan at this point. So the 1 point, coordination, I said. Now how we try to build up a spatial database, because spatial database is our contribution for our digital strategy in Baden-Württemberg. And purpose is to make accessible the spatial database at any time, at any place. And it consists of cadastre data, topography data, and subject-specific data. And for all that, it's necessary that we have a uniform coordinate reference system of highest quality. And the uniform, or the coordinate reference system of Baden-Württemberg today is the Gauss-Krüger system based on the German triangulation network. It's a system established in the 19th century, realized in Baden-Württemberg in the 20th century, and is quite good. 1-2 centimeters about per 100 meters in accuracy, and is the base for all the data sets in Baden-Württemberg today. Inspire wants the European Terrestrial Reference System 1989, combined with some projections, for example, the transversal Mercator projection. So in Germany, all of the cadastral and mapping authorities decided to transform their original data sets in this European coordinate reference system and to leave the old German system. Baden-Württemberg do this too, but we try to do some quality improvements here. We want to get a nearly perfect coordinate reference system, so we want to eliminate all of the existing tensions in the old coordinate reference system, not only transforming the old quality in a new system, we want to eliminate all the existing tensions in the old coordinate reference system so that in future we can do surveyings without using local fixed points, only using a positioning system with correction data. So it needs less time, higher efficiency. That's our strategy in Baden-Württemberg. How we do that? First step is we have to measure identical points. In Baden-Württemberg, we measured more than 450,000 points, identical points, having coordinates in both system, Gauss-Krüger system, and in the transversal Mercator system. Second point is that we do an unconstrained adjustment with the least square method, taking the NTV2 procedure. NTV2 stands for National Transformation Version 2. It's a transformation established developed in Canada some years ago, using identical points in both systems with a 7-parameter transformation and so on. And the result are shift values to get from the old system in the new system. And the third step at this point, each point in a cell of the grid of the original data is transformed by bilinear interpolation, adding the shift values in longitude and latitude, and take the projection equations to calculate the transversal Mercator coordinates. That's the way we do that. And we do some tests for that. For example, here you see accuracy tests. What's the right equidistance of the grid, especially for cadastre purposes. And here we see the right equidistance is 50 meters to get better than 99%, better than 2 centimeters with a reliability of 99%. Yes, and that's the way we do it. Cadastre data next year, 1st of February 2018, we will transform to the new system with this grid with an equidistance of 50 meters with millimeter to centimeter quality, so that in future we can do our surveyings without using local fixed points in the cadastre. And on the second topic, topography data. Topography data has only an accuracy of decimeter to meter, so it's not necessary to take this very huge transformation with 25 million points only in Baden-Württemberg. We take another grid for producing the transformation. It's a German grid which is used in whole Germany, in all other countries of Germany too. So now we have transformed the cadastre data at 1st of February 2018 and topography data too. And the subject-specific data is still in the old system, so we have to transform the subject-specific data from environment, from traffic, from interior affairs, from planning and so on too. And I only say it with a few words. We do it with the exactly same procedure, NTV2 procedure, take the same grids for that, so we have in the end a spatial database with cadastre data, topography data, and subject-specific data, which fits together, and that's a wonderful base for e-government applications to build up the e-government applications, and we are prepared for Inspire, I hope, too. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dieter. I think that was super interesting. I mean, quite a lot of effort that is as well. Quite a project. Any questions? Amalia?
The transformation, every of the states make their own transformation. They are not a transformation project for all German.
Every authority having data have to do this transformation on its own, but we provide a transformation service on the one hand side. On the other side, we provide a grid, the NTV2 grid, so everyone can do it on his own GIS and do the calculation on its own. Yes.
Any other questions? Maybe I have a little innocent question which shows my little knowledge about the area, but I always thought that there was a reason to use this, for example, Gauss-Krüger scheme because it's better able to represent in a given area the specifics. In particular, if you go to the ground, while the ETRS, with its European perspective, of course, is in a way coarser. So you do not need to store the old data in any way. You have these vectors and that. I mean, are you storing this shifting information somehow, or are you really shifting everything and you have a higher accuracy? I find that amazing.
We are shifting everything and we store the grids, of course, and we can retransform it. It's no problem, but it's not necessary. We have it in the European system without tensions in future, and so it's our new system without nearly perfect coordinate reference system without any lags. So I think the old system is not necessary. The old system was measured in the 19th century with triangulation and trilateration in the 20th century, so the accuracy is less than today with VLBI and such other things.
Thanks. Can I just ask, are any people here in the room who are doing similar things? Are other countries doing similar things? Or are you trusting on some people giving you this new ETRS space? I mean,
the Czech Republic has similar approach, but I think we have 10 times less identification or the points with both coordinates, and from some reasons, because we didn't finish the digitization of all the maps, we stay with the old system and having transformation to ETRS.
Thank you.
The accuracy is similar.
Yeah. There was one more contribution or other question.
I'm aware of a similar project for Belgium, and the three regions are working together with National Geographic Institute to have one single NTV2 grid for Belgium, but the size of Belgium is almost the same as the size of Baden, Wuerttemberg.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks again, Dieter. We have the next presentation. The next presentation is by Amalia from Spain. Amalia, I'm getting better, from Spain. And she will speak to us about how Inspire has been featuring in the area of real estate, or cadastre, or both. And we will now learn how this goes.
Okay, thank you very much. So I am Amalia Velasco from the Spanish Cadastre, and I am going to tell you the experience that we have with the use of GML in the change information between the land register and the cadastre. We are not so perfect like the German, so we have many problems of coordination from the cadastre and the land register for many, many years. But we have from 2015 a new law that wants to give real estate traffic greater legal certainty by incorporating the georeferent graphic information of the parcels in the property right register. This is based in the cadastral cartography, and the most important is that the mechanism is over the GML from Inspire Cadastral Parcel. So Inspire Cadastral Parcel was the magic word that permit us coordinate between land register and cadastre. The new system provide this data. They must provide an alternative georeferent representation. And this alternative georeferent representation is also a GML of Inspire. And we define in our web, that is open to everybody, a validation service of alternative georeferent graphical representation, all in GML. So if it's necessary to do a new parcellation, what we do? The law said that they must take the data of the cadastre, they download free of charge the GML or other format from the cadastre, the topographers or the citizen modify with private tools that they are allowed, but also we help them to do it. And then they include the alternative georeferent representation in our system, also as a GML cadastral parcel. So what we want with this validation is to be sure that the data is correct and to be sure that is including all the part that is in the cadastre. So to ensure the continuity of all the information. So the process begins with the GML of Inspire. And how one person can get this GML of Inspire? They can get interactively from our system, free of charge for everybody, and 24 hours a day, every day. Also, they can download with the service of Inspire. We have already transformed the cadastral parcel, the addresses, and the buildings to Inspire. We don't change all our system because it has much more data and because it has a lot of implication. So we provide a service with some of the data in the Inspire model. And this is free of charge for everybody, and they can download all this information. But also, they can download the cadastral certificate that has embedded the GML of Inspire. So these are the formats that they can use. Then they transform the data, and they have a system to introduce all the information in our web page very easily. And to get, this is the way that they upload all the information, and then they get a report. This report that has also the GML of the new parcels and the old parcels also has a code that can be called by the notaries and land register and all that they work in the immobiliary traffic. They can check this report to see if it is correct. It has the old situation and the new situation with all the coordinates of the two things. The report avoids physical exchange of files, and only the 16 digits go from one person to another. Shows the new representation at the old ones. All is with web service. All is unattended, so we don't need to do any other effort. And if the notary can get this information for the deed, and if the validation is okay, in 5 days, the new information is in the cadastre, and we can produce the certificate for the land register. So which are the results? The results are that in 2016, we have more than 7 million certificates and more than 50,000 reports. And 85% of this is directly obtained by notary register and administration, not the citizen, and can be obtained, as I told you, interactively, and also invoking the opportune web service, enabling unattended communication between information systems. But we did a step further. The step further is that in the law also said that the positions of the constructions to be put in the land register is also necessary to have the data of the cadastre and to have the data in GML of buildings of the cadastre. So we have created in this year the same system for buildings. And we think that we start with very little information of buildings, but we think that in the future we can put more information, even the units, because we have all the units. because it's a fiscal cadastre, we have a lot of information because we need this information to make the evaluation of the real estate. We have land surveys, building surveys, conservation status, use, legal one and actual one, typology, year of construction, so many information that we have put in the Inspire buildings model. But we need the extended, and this is a problem, we need the extended schema because we have floors under the level of, and we have the value and many other things that they are not in the core, they are in the extended. And for us, it's also very important other constructions, because in Spain there are a lot of swimming pools, for example, and the swimming pools are important in taxation. So we need this information also. So we need building standard for these two reasons. And there is an error of validation. This is a problem, because the code of open air pool is not good when you make the validation, is not good in the Inspire schemas. We have said in the cluster and in many other things because we need it, but still is not a solution. So we have to do a checking locally, but not with the Inspire schema. What we are using in the change of building, we are using only now the horizontal geometry reference as footprint and the member of and the other construction, for example, swimming pools. And we did the same in the same way. We download, the user download the information of cadastral parcels. They make all the new building, all the other information, and our system check that the building is in the good position, has the good condition, and is included inside the parcels. Also has the code that with these system codes, we exchange the information. So the conclusions, which are the conclusions? That the new system of coordination between cadastre and register, based in the GML of Inspire, has allowed to establish a fluid and safe exchange of information between all the agents involved in the real estate traffic. And it has led to development, application, products, and service by private initiatives. The GML files is now well known by surveyors, engineers, architects, notaries, registers that work in this, and has become the standard in cartography to exchange the information from the beginning to the end. But more, with the introduction of this system, not only we are making advance in the coordination between cadastre and property right register, but also we are standardizing the data and processes within the actors to work in the land management. Because the citizen, all the public authorities that work in the territory has the legal duty in Spain to communicate to the cadastre all these changes, and all the change must be communicated now with the Inspire GML. In this way, we are enhancing interoperability between all the actors, simplifying administrative procedures, and reducing cost. Thank you very much.
Finally, a positive example also about GML and about also you show really how this features in an e-government sense, that you are providing benefits in an interaction with notary service or so. I think that goes a little bit beyond that in-the-box Inspire thinking. Questions? Is it too late in the afternoon already? No questions? You are not having GML issues also because the files are usually not so big. Huh? You're dealing with a number, a single number or a small number of. And the next presentation is from a colleague from Belgium. And his name is François. And he will speak to us about authentic sources. I think that's quite interesting, and I'm curious to learn what the understanding of that is. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So my name is François Du Mortier, and I am the chairman of the Belgian Inspire Coordination Committee, and I will come back soon on that committee. First of all, I would like to ask you some questions. Have you ever been confronted with missing data in authentic sources? Who was confronted to such a case? Nobody? Yes? What kind of case? Address data, yes, of course. With obsolete or wrong data in registers. Yes, of course. Incorrect use of data coming from the registers. I think many of us did. When you are called by somebody that dialed the wrong number, he simply read the number in the register, but it didn't dial the right one. So, or somebody faced to not using data coming from the registers. Yes, of course, taxi drivers, they go to the wrong address. That's typical. Or eventually, just unexisting registers that would that would be necessary to exist. Yes?
Built-in address database?
Of course. Or I think a register of diplomas, for instance. That's always a typical case where you need to provide a paper document because there is no register. So I think everybody already knows what are the big advantages of authoritative sources and authentic sources. And because of the well-known federal complexity of Belgium, that is subdivided in many political levels, like the federal states already mentioned today, of course the 3 regions with different political policies and domains, but also the communities more bound to cultural and education policies and so on. Because of that, we already know in advance, before the adoption of the directive, that it would be very necessary to coordinate between and across the different political levels. And just I give you here an overview of what we already collected. So among the 34 teams, well-known teams of the directive, you can already see that 24 of them, for 24 of them, we will need coordination, because either there are data sets across several regions and also at the federal level, and so we will need to eventually select the reference data sets, but most of the time we will have to combine our data sets and just to make the data sets compliant with the directive and the implementing rules. So most of them will need a coordination. Also because of cross-cutting generic EU requirements, we will need coordination. And just to mention a few, we will need unique identifiers. We will also need to apply a compliant coordinate reference system. Up to now in Belgium, we still use a very old one. That's the Lambert 72. That is not compliant. In fact, a similar case with Baden-Württemberg, just explained before. And so there is a new one under investigation, the Lambert 2008. But of course, migrating all our data to that new system across all political levels is a challenge, and will request a lot of effort and resources. Some objects also have a kind of hierarchical dependencies. And of course, we think about administrative units and statistical units that are made of subdivisions of other administrative units. So coordination is needed at that level. Of course, many objects that we will have to manage across those 34 teams are cross-border objects. So we will need to to reflect together to make them seamless across the borders. Also, sometimes data sets that we produce are used by other bodies to produce environment-related reports that are based on those data sets. So therefore, there is a coordination, even if between the producing authorities, there is also already an agreement. So, and of course, when we made the legal provisions for the directive, a federal law was necessary, along with 2 decrees and an ordinance. But beside of that, we also needed a cooperation agreement just because of the necessary coordination between the parties for all these reasons. And so there was a provision in this cooperation agreement that was signed between the 4 entities, the federal and the 3 regions. The cooperation agreement provides for a forum that is just a place, a discussion place, an exchange of views about data, geodata specifically, but not only those ones, an exchange of data between administration. But more important, there is a coordination committee that is composed of 2 experts per entity, I mean per region in this case, and for the federal. One is an expert in the environment sector, and one is an expert in the geographical sector. Among the members, there is also the member state contact point, the chairman of the forum, as well as the cell director, because the committee is supposed to be supported by a cell. Currently, it does not more than secretariat. Among the tasks of the committee, of course, there is the need to negotiate and select the reference data sets, because we have to provide the environment bodies with reference data sets. They do not need to know about the internal complexity of Belgium. We have to set up a common Inspire Belgian portal and to lay down common terms just to access, use, exchange, and eventually agree about licenses and fees. Among the tasks, we also need to manage the relationship with the European Commission, and this means, of course, the production of the monitoring and reporting reports, the country fishes, and so on, but also assess the feasibility and the costs of the proposals, the new proposals made by the European Commission. So as you can see, there is a lot to do just to collaborate inside Belgium. And during the process of implementing the directive, we quickly discovered that there was a need to collaborate for very basic registers that were already existing but needed to be streamlined. There was already a working group created in the framework of another initiative a long time ago, but that initiative started from the cadastre, was kind of disappeared from the surface mysteriously. We don't know exactly why, and so the directive was finally the opportunity for a revival of that group, that working group, and so a new committee called the Best Address Committee. Best not for because it is the best one, but because it is the Belgian Street Address Committee. Was created with the goal to build an authentic source for addresses, but not every address, in fact just address that can be linked to addressable objects, and in fact exactly 4 types of addressable objects, being building units, parcels, places on a wharf, or parts of a land where you can put an unanchored space where you can put a caravan, for instance. So it was agreed upon that we will produce kind of one authentic source, but made of the 3 regional data sets. The region and those registers are available since the beginning this year, and all the partners of the collaboration agreement will be obliged to use it starting from next year. So in the framework of that committee, a lot of subgroups were created. One was working on the data model and produced, of course, a data model for Belgium. Another group was working on the stating and verifying and attributing addresses, and made kind of a text containing legal provisions that should be applied to municipalities, in fact. And the third subgroup is working on the web services, and it's still working on that. So this is still to be continued. I mean, the legal provisions are not adopted yet, and the web services are still under construction, but it's coming soon. A second working group was created as well for building and building units. Indeed, we quickly stated that an address as such is nothing if it is not linked to an addressable object, and there was a need to exchange information about buildings and building units across all the public bodies because of land registers, but also urban planning and so on, and building permits and so on. So we decided first to define the buildings that will be covered by the register, and we will focus on completely enclosed and covered buildings, possibly with underground parts, and having a surface greater than 15 square meters and or having an address. Based on that definition, we will create authentic source. Of course, we will reuse existing registers, but that are not, that do not have an official value, a legal value up to now. We will create it from existing data sets. But my colleague, Jean-Claude Jaslet, will give a presentation about that initiative tomorrow. So if you are interested by that initiative, I invite you to have a look to his presentation. Of course, the goal of that register is to foster the exchange of data related to building between public bodies, but also to ease the update of the data, of the building data themselves and the data linked to the building. Another working group was also created more recently about administrative units and what the so-called administrative entities in Belgium. It was a requirement from the regions, and there was already a working group created, but that one was also a bit absent. Of course, the scope is the cadastre-based hierarchical subdivisions of the territory, being the country, the regions, the provinces, the districts and the municipalities, and for their own use, also the cadastral divisions, sections and sheets. Many other public bodies reuse that information, sometimes by subdividing those administrative units, but sometimes also grouping them. Think about statistical districts, for instance, just to give you an example. Of course, the target of the working group is to create an inspired, compliant, authentic source with a legal value. And the current focus of the working group is the boundaries of country, regions, provinces, and municipalities, but also looking for related issues like historical versions, what was the situation a few years ago, and so on, the dissemination policies, and currently new regional boundaries have been submitted to the members to be validated by the participants, and the same will be applied for the other boundaries. And finally, already mentioned in the previous session, another initiative takes place. It's the hydrography working group, because there is something specific that we did not examine up to now, and it is the cross-border connection between the data sets. For hydrography, we have a federal data set and we have regional data sets. They all need to be compliant and seamless. So the goal of that working group is to transform existing hydrographic data sets into INSPIRE compliant, seamless data sets. To do that, we will organize a workshop on September 22nd of this year. During this workshop, we will scrutinize similar cross-border initiatives, including the procedures and the tools that have been applied to solve the same issues. We will identify and examine the existing Belgian data sets, and then try to set up a Belgian methodology that we could apply specifically for hydrographic data, but that we could also extend and apply to other cross-border data sets. So this is the current situation. Of course, we already know that other themes will need coordination, as I explained before, but this is a long process, a long journey. And as a conclusion, I would say the INSPIRE directive pushes to foster the exchange of information using interoperable standards and so on. But more than that, we need to create official registers of data sources because of other e-government purposes. Well, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, François, for that round story, which introduced us not only to the notion of these authentic sources, but also gave us a good overview of your governance challenges. Other questions to François at this stage? I was just wondering on the last item with the hydrography. I mean, that should be available by the end of the year. And now I understand you have been kind of revisiting this work because you want to assure cross-boundary consistency. Will you still make it, or what is your aim towards that deadline? Just as an example.
Well, I believe there is already a data set. Maybe it's not compliant, but there is a full coverage for Belgium for reporting. But in this case, we will improve the quality of the data set, we will improve the connection and so on. So we will enhance the quality of the existing data sets. And we are supposed to be on time, of course.
Okay, I think we leave it with that. Thanks again. Last but not least comes Clotilde. Clotilde Pinault will have some insights about the capabilities of the INSPIRE directive to manage geodata. And I like that topic because we also have in our institution to show for the data management how this nice and work-rich INSPIRE area helps our own EEA data management. Voila.
Oui. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, we are actually two. So,
You introduce your
yeah, I will introduce. So, my name is Clotilde Pinault. So, I'm a marketing manager at Isogeo, and this is my colleague Valentin Blanlot, product manager. So I should say first, maybe thanks for staying. And we will today try to answer to this question, so how to use the INSPIRE directive to manage geodata. So quickly, maybe because you don't know us. So Isogeo is a French software company specialized in geodata management since 2009, and we edit and sell a web-based platform that allows private and public organizations to discover, document, and share their geodata. So as most of our clients need to respond quickly and effectively to the Inspire directive, we became, we should say, maybe expert on this directive. So we will start with two French Inspire champions. So usually we take the regional level to talk about the implementation of the Inspire directive, but we choose lower levels. So GeoMayenne is a French general council, a French department, and an urban community to illustrate the subsidiarity principle of the directive. So, and also the fact that the infrastructure should be close, very close to the territory. So the first is GeoMayenne. So basically this is a geographic data infrastructure with two main goals. So the first is to increase the value of the geodata, of the data produced by all the players on the territory, especially in the context of open data. And the second objective of GeoMayenne is to promote exchanges and the release of data in compliance with the Inspire directive. So we helped the General Council to set up a platform with a catalog and cataloging services that allows all the players on the territory to bring their data and the services on this catalog. So the result is that there is a network of geomatic players on the territory, and they are also in the meantime in compliance with the Inspire directive. So this is respecting also the subsidiarity principle of the directive. I think, and you see also a few figures that we put on the result and why we call them champions. I think we won't have the time to go through this example because it might be too long, but this is the same principle, but at a lower scale, a lower level, with a urban community. But if you have questions about this example, we can answer at the end of the presentation. So we can say that these two projects, they share a vision. So since the introduction of the directive, the European countries, they have been required to take a top-down approach to implement geodata management solutions. So by this, we mean that all the SDI architecture, they depends on central and local government decision rather than on end user needs and requirements. So the end user involved in the directive, such as the fire stations, the cities, the national park, I think that they need to register and document on this SDI platform, which is totally a top-down approach, and the return on investment is minimal for them because of several reasons. First, it is time-consuming, and also maybe we can say a little bit boring to comply with the requirement of the directive. The second is that this catalog that they create cannot be used internally or for internal needs. And the third part is that it's difficult for them to control any updating process. So our approach of the directive, it would be to say, let's take into account the end user's requirements, which are questions very simple that I think you mentioned more or less in the beginning with your question, like is where is the data I need? Is it up to date? And are there any legal restriction associated to this data? So just this simple question, which is easy access to geodata. And so I will let Valentin take the following part of the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Clotilde. Yes, therefore, we have identified 3 tips or good practice. first an inventory data. So this inventory should have several characteristics, being up to date, documented, and exhaustive. It allows to increase the knowledge of the territory, which means to have a complete views of the geodata available on the territory. It's also about controlling the release of this knowledge with the following principle: one inventory and one catalog per use. Inspire is one use among several. This control is a base to add value to the data assets. Interoperability is the second point. This is at the heart of Inspire, and this is also essential for us. It means first to have a description of the data assets with standard and so easily understandable, and that allows to share a different scale and to different kind of jobs, and particularly non-GIS specialists. Second, it also means interoperability with the information system already in place, upstream with the data, whatever their formats, and downstream with the SDI or GIS software, desktop and web, in place as the player. In French, there is ArcGIS and QGIS, to quote the most famous. The last is more about the vision. We all know that metadata is a forgotten aspect of the GIS. We have realized it's just because the metadata should be made for yourself and not only for others. So the approach is to use metadata to answer internal needs of knowledge, management, added value, and not to leave metadata as a mandatory obligation. From that point, the catalog and the metadata are concretely used to add value to the data assets. With your experience in France, we have noticed that the Inspire directive is not only an opportunity to have a better knowledge of the data assets, but it's also the first step to start an open data project. So we are done with the presentation. Thanks for your attention. If you have any question.
Okay. Thanks to both of you. That went quick. So we indeed have a few questions. I was not quite sure. I did not quite see what you as a company offer as a service here. Could you be a bit more specific about that?
Yes, so we didn't want to talk actually about, in the beginning when we made the presentation, about what we sell, because it was more about our vision on the Inspire Directive. But as you asked, we are actually building a software, and we also sell services around. And so this software is not specialized on the Inspire compliance, because it is about geodata management. Yeah. But among what we offer, there is this possibility. So we also have this vision on Inspire to say, just make your catalog or your inventory and a lot of catalogs, one catalog per need, and then you will be in compliance with Inspire, but it won't be like something difficult.
What do you mean by one catalog a need? I saw it early on. I did not understand that.
Okay.
How do you package the needs?
Yeah, so this is something that you define in the beginning of a project. So this is most of the time the people that will use the catalog. So for example, different services within your organization, they won't need the same data on the daily basis for their daily needs. And we consider Inspire as one use. We consider also open data as one use. So this is what we mean by one catalog per use, knowing that one metadata can be in several catalogs. Yep. So this is it.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. There's one question.
Ah.
accessibility, the catalog has some search tools, I believe. Can you just explain how that's powered, or a little bit on the technical side about that one?
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah, I think I get it. Just donc, ça va être en quoi le moteur de recherche et comment il fonctionne.
Ouais, on peut dire que le moteur de recherche fonctionne grâce aux métadonnées en fait.
So I think the search engine it is powerful only when you document the metadata actually. So it is reached by the work you do, and I guess it was your question, right?
Yeah, and I was just wondering, like, are you using the database behind this search engine? Are you using anything like Elasticsearch or something like that to power the search engine?
No, we don't use Elasticsearch. It's own technology.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Maybe you have a booth in the conference where people can go to have a look?
No,
well,
we don't have
just
any,
a
but you
suggestion
can
for
just,
next
yeah.
Okay, I think with this I like to wrap up the session. It's still warm in the room. Yes. Thanks for the presenters, to all the presenters, to the audience which was sticking around. I think also for me to briefly summarize, like Martin did. We had a ride around along a different set of aspects here around e-government. I mean, we learned about how the statistics community their data is being represented with the help of the Belgian national initiative. We learned about how, interestingly, Baden-Württemberg goes about a referencing system, a new one for all the geodata, and how much this works as an underlying layer for other activities, I think. We learned a lot about how Inspire benefits business and administrative acting related to cadastre and buildings. That was very interesting too. We learned about the Belgium case on governance. I think that was quite intense on governance, but also was highlighting the importance Inspire plays for the building of authoritative registers. And then last not least, we got a sneak preview into the approach of the company Intergeo, Isogeo. And yeah, that I think gave us some facets of what's happening around Inspire, and I think it's always rewarding to see. I find how the community is developing, new ideas are coming up. I think as we go through the years with the Inspire conference, it's always a good place to exchange these things. So with these words, I'll leave you for the rest of the evening. Have a nice evening. Nothing more planned today, I think, but remember tomorrow is the conference dinner, and until tomorrow in the morning, I wish you a nice evening. Ciao.